on stage before I get out here. That's going to make it real difficult. Thanks, guys. All right, well, my name is Kellen Schroeter. I'm a senior studying aerospace engineering. A good first question here is, what's this big robot that they brought out and what's it supposed to do? Well, this robot here was designed and built by our University of Alabama astrobotics team, and it's made to mine the surface of Mars. So a good next question is kind of, why does anyone want to mine the surface of Mars? And I guess the easy answer there is that because of this robot, the first trillionaire on Earth could be sitting in the audience right now. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and why people like me are drawn to the topic of space mining. So you can see trillions away. So the first important thing to know is that Michigan is a great state. It's my home state. It's a real beautiful place. It's not really so relevant to the robot, but I think it's important for you guys to know. So the first important piece of information is that people in this industry love exploring things. For me, it manifests itself in exploring places. For other people, it could be meeting new people or learning new things, but kind of that exploration is the heart of this industry. Here are a bunch of adventures that I've been on myself. I'll walk you through some of them. In the top left there, I met some students at UA, exchange students, and they hooked me up with an internship in Germany. While I was there, I posted on a skiing forum I was going to be there. Somebody said, take this train, meet me, I'll be here. Get in my car, we'll drive to the Alps, we'll climb this mountain here, and we'll ski on the glacier on the other side and camp. So I did, and I went and I got in their car. It was an awesome experience. So I guess the lesson there is to always get in strangers' cars, right? The top right picture there is actually a hike through the longest gorge in Europe. It's 16 miles in Crete, Greece. It was about 110 degrees when we set out that day, and I think we brought something like 2 Capri Sun pouches, so a little bit ill-advised there. Bottom left here, that's actually a cave that we found in a National Geographic magazine. It's in Alabama. We searched and searched, got the GPS coordinates. We went there, rappelled down into it, explored. It was an awesome trip. I highly recommend you guys check that out. Bottom right is some climbing and skiing in the Rockies. Bottom middle there is actually a program at UA called Alabama Action Abroad. It's fantastic. I highly recommend this program to everyone. For 2 consecutive summers, myself and a bunch of other UA students went and we lived in the rainforest in between Costa Rica and Panama with a bunch of people at an indigenous reservation with the Bribri tribe, and it was just fantastic. Met awesome people. The scenery was unbelievable. I highly recommend that program. The top middle there is actually an astrobotics trip to Hawaii. We're standing on top of a 50-foot waterfall there. A bunch of the team members jumped off. So I think you can see that the spirit is alive and well with this team. But like I said, it doesn't always manifest itself in exploring places. For a lot of people, it's meeting new people or exploring new things. But for all of us, kind of the heart of the exploration is the ultimate exploration, space exploration. Space, it's the final frontier. It's cliche, maybe, but it's definitely true. And I think that once you get past pictures of Neil Armstrong planting the flag on the moon or what Elon Musk might tell you about Mars, you realize that it's robots that are the real explorers in space, not humans. You can see on the left there, or on your right side, that's a real classic picture of Surveyor 3 with Apollo 12 commander Pete Conrad. That's actually the first and only time that a human explorer has been able to link up with a robotic explorer on another world. And that robot was there years before Pete Conrad. It did all of the science collecting, it figured out how to land on that spot, and made sure it would be fine for Pete to come and walk around. So kind of when Pete got there, he was more of a tourist rather than an explorer. The robot was there first. Currently on Mars, we have 3 operable rovers, the biggest of which is there in the bottom left. That's the Curiosity rover. It's the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. And right now it's digging into the surface of Mars and collecting data to pave the way for humans to go to Mars in the future. So I think you can kind of see that these are the Marco Polos of our generation. Anywhere that humans have gone or will go in space, robots were there first. Who wouldn't want to be first? But I think once you figure that out, you realize you don't have to train yourself to be an explorer anymore. You have to train yourself to make things to explore. Which brings us to our next space mining quality, the desire and passion to make things. If you've ever seen a TED Talk before, you know all about 3D printers and Arduino microcontrollers. Well, these are our bread and butter. They're kind of cheap enough and accessible enough that they allow anything that comes to your mind that you think you can make it now at an affordable price. Here's some things that I've made myself. The top left there is an internet garage door opener, so you can control your garage door from any smartphone or internet-connected device. Top right is actually a night light. It's made out of a wax sand lamp, so when the lights turn off, it glows different colors. Bottom left is a bioluminescent algae fountain. So when the fountain turns on, bioluminescent algae glow, and it's kind of a cool thing. Bottom right is actually a rock climbing wall that I built in my dorm room. I'm an RA though, so I guess it's all right. I think that eventually, though, you get to a point where there are only so many things that you can build by taking parts out of the garbage or taking apart printers. Eventually, you want a bigger budget and a bigger challenge. And for me, that kind of created the perfect storm for the Alabama Astrobotics team. So this is my third year with the team. I joined as a sophomore, and each year we build a brand new robot that competes at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. As part of the NASA robotic mining competition, and kind of the crux of this competition is figuring out how to drive and dig in this stuff called regolith. It's in that pit right there. We drive in a BP-1 simulant, and it's just like the stuff that you find on the moon or on Mars, on asteroids. It's very powdery, kind of like driving in baby powder, but it's also very volatile, so you have to wear a full hazmat suit to go in there and work around. This is a difficult, real difficult thing to drive big, heavy robots through and to dig. It has a lot of engineering challenges. So the competition kind of works like you start the robot at one end of the arena. It has to figure out how to navigate obstacles like rocks and craters, stuff you find on the moon. You get to the other end of the arena, you dig as much of that regolith as you can, navigate back, dump it off. You do that as much as possible in 10 minutes, and then whoever digs the most wins. And because you're going into space, there are other important parts of the competition, like the mass of the robot or its level of autonomy. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But NASA's really interested in this because each year they get 50 free prototypes of these robots to figure out what they like, what works, what doesn't, what's new, what's exciting. It's a real benefit for them, and they've explicitly stated that they're looking to us for ideas for what to put on their space mining robots. So you might be wondering, well, why is NASA interested in robotic mining and space mining? And the answer there is water. Here's a graphic that shows the north and south pole of Mars, and you can see it has the density of water. It's filled with water. Mars and the moon both have tons of water, but the thing is it doesn't come in the form of lakes or rivers or oceans like it does on Earth. It's actually held in the soil. So we have to mine the soil, and then through a process called in situ resource utilization, we can take that water and make it usable. So human explorers can drink it or use it for food in the future. And then we can take it apart and use it for fuel to power these space cities or explore deeper into the solar system. But the thing is that this isn't some futuristic technology. It's happening right now. There are companies like Moon Express that employ people in the state of Alabama to build these robots that will eventually start to mine these areas and pave the way for humans to explore deeper into the solar system. It's a big deal, and it's happening right now. But outside of human exploration, there's also a ton of money to be made in this industry, like we just talked about, and that comes in the form of asteroids. So every precious metal on Earth was brought here by asteroids during the creation of Earth. So it's platinum group metals, that's what we're talking about. And one of these asteroids in space right now is worth upwards of $3 trillion in platinum group elements. And it contains about 174 times the amount of platinum group elements that we've mined in the entire history of humans. And these elements are difficult to gain access to in today's political climate. They're a lot of times not in America, but they're the elements that we need to drive a green economy. So they power things like, or make up things like solar cells or hybrid cars, computers. We need access to these elements, and this is the way to get them. It's a nearly infinite supply, and people are really vying for this. Organizations like Wall Street Journal and Forbes have predicted that the first trillionaire on Earth will make his money in asteroid mining. This also is something that's not far off. It's happening right now. There are companies like Seattle-based Planetary Resources that are sending hardware into space to identify these asteroids and develop the technologies to mine them and take the resources back to Earth so we can use them to develop this green economy and make that money. So you're probably wondering, how does Alabama fit into this? Why are we pioneering the path? The short answer is that we're really good at what we do. In fact, we're one of the best on Earth. This NASA robotic mining competition has been around 6 years, and over those 6 years, we've never finished lower than 5th place. In the past 4 years, we finished in the top 3 every single time. We're the only team that's been invited to Hawaii twice to drive on the hallowed grounds of robotics, of space robotics. It's on the side of the Mauna Kea volcano, and it's the most lunar-like place on Earth. It's absolutely amazing. You can see there's a picture of us at the top of the surface and the robot driving there. It was an unbelievable experience, and any robot that's gone into space and gone on these missions has driven there, and our robots have successfully driven there as well. They're ready to go to space. We're very successful, and a couple key features of the robot that make us so good, looking at it, one is our modular approach. So this is actually 2 robots in one right here, a digging robot and a driving robot, and they can be separated and operate completely adjacent to one another. And that's key for exploring space because it reduces the weight that you need to carry dramatically. So you can take one robot, take off the digging module, put on a reconnaissance module or a transportation module, anything that you want, but you can keep that driving robot the same so you don't have to keep taking different packages for it to drive. And if you're trying to get to space, keeping the weight down is key because it's so expensive to get stuff into outer space. So this is one thing that we're really good at and that you'll see on any robot that goes in to do this mining in the future will be modularity. It's a really key tactic. The other thing is that autonomy that we talked about earlier. And this is something that we're really good at. Basically what this means is that the smart guys on the team have gotten this robot to the point where you press one button and it can do the entire competition run all by itself. So it uses this laser scanner up in the top right corner, and it figures out where all those obstacles are, plans a path around them, figures out how to avoid them, goes and digs, comes back, dumps. It can do the entire cycle all by itself. And this is key because it means we can send up fleets of these robots to asteroids or to the moon, and they can do the entire mission all by themselves. You don't have to wait for a communications delay back to Earth or for human operators that need to go to sleep or take vacation breaks. These robots can constantly be producing an output, and it would just be key for this industry. NASA's pushing it so heavily, in fact, that over the 6 years that this competition has been around, 50 teams each year, each team gets 2 runs, and only 2 teams have completed this successfully. And ours is a more space-ready system, if you were wondering. And a lot of this success is due to our faculty advisor, one of the most prolific coaches in Alabama history, Dr. Ricks. We affectionately call him Rick Saban. But he's not the only parallel that we have to the football team here. In the 4 years that I've been at school here, our football team has won 2 national championships. Our astrobotics team has also won 2 national championships. And while these football players will go on to have professional football careers in the NFL, and that's a big sphere, that's a really cool thing, our astrobotics team members will go on to have professional careers in asteroid mining and fundamentally change the global economy and fundamentally change the world. And that's a really big sphere. Thank you.